Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Carleen Cousins, Chair of the Information Systems and Business Analytics Department at FIU Business. Welcome to the kickoff event for the ATOM COVID-19 Datathon. It is my pleasure to host this evening's proceedings. The Datathon's theme is Pioneering Higher Education During a Pandemic. As you are aware, South Florida is one of the new epicenters of COVID-19. As the number of COVID-19 cases continue to increase, we need creative and feasible technology solutions to address the challenges that COVID-19 presents to our FIU community. We have some of the most brilliant minds here at FIU. Who better than us, the Panthers, to think of innovative, out-of-the-box ideas for the FIU community to safely coexist with COVID-19 as we repopulate the campus in fall 2020. I look forward to witnessing the innovations that will emerge from our community. At this time, I would like to recognize the special people in the audience. First of all, a special welcome to our leaders, President Mark Rosenberg and Dean Joanne Lee of FIU Business and other deans who are in the audience. Welcome to the competitors, our undergraduate and graduate students from majors across FIU, representing business analytics, information systems, computer science, economics, biomedical engineering, physical education, political science, psychology, marketing. With paws raised up, these Panthers have come together in a very difficult time to develop COVID-19 solutions for the good of our community. Panthers, your grit inspire me. Welcome also to those who support these students, our faculty, industry partners, our panelists, mentors, and judges, without whom this event would not be possible. Welcome to our sponsors, Assurant Inc., Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits, and Resource. A special welcome to the ATOM Advisory Board. So let me tell you some more about this Datathon. From July 24th to August 2nd, our students will work together on challenges grouped into 8 tracks to create technology solutions that help us return to campus and maintain the social fabric of our community. Tracks A to D will focus on establishing the new normal for presence on campus, focusing on problems such as optimizing class scheduling, maximizing space, monitoring risk, and supplying personal protection equipment. Tracks E to G will focus on nurturing the health and vibrancy of the student experience, focusing on solutions to orient new students, support athletics, and handle disparities. And we have track H, the wildcard track, which will focus on ideas which do not fit neatly into the other tracks. Though this is a data science challenge, we welcome ideas that draw on emerging technologies such as the Internet of Things, blockchain, augmented reality, and artificial intelligence. Your ideas can take the form of a dashboard with visualizations, machine learning algorithms, simulations, architectural designs with virtual reality augmentations or app developments. At this time, please welcome our president, Mark Rosenberg. Dr. Rosenberg.
Thank you, Dr. Cousins. Panthers are in the house. Here we are trying to figure things out. We see ourselves as a solution center at FIU. We're willing to take responsibility. We're willing to step up. And that's what we're doing this evening with this ATOM COVID-19 Datathon. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank our judges. I want to thank our students. I want to thank our competitors. Dean, thank you very much. Carleen, thank you for your leadership. This hasn't been an easy time for anyone. This is a place we've never been before. This is a place that challenges us, not just professionally, but personally. It challenges our families, it challenges our communities, and we've got to figure it out. And that in part is what we're doing here this evening. Shortly, you're going to be hearing from industry leaders on the challenges as they see them with this global pandemic. Listen carefully, please. We know that as Carlene said, you have the smarts. You have what it takes, the skills, the knowledge, the determination to help us figure this out. And look, the truth is, FIU is about creativity. FIU is about the life of the mind. FIU is about people getting together to figure things out collaboratively. And this agenda that you have, truthfully, strikes right at the heart of the challenges that we are confronting. So we're looking forward to your efforts. We're looking forward to the creative things that you come up with. It's what I found in this whole exercise is that yesterday, what we said we were not going to do, today we do it. And so use your imagination, think out of the box. Nothing is off the table at this point. Working together collaboratively, we can figure this out and we can find ways to beat this pandemic. That's what we got to do. That's what we will do. And you're going to be a part of that. I wish you all best of luck this week. Looking forward to the results. Thank you so much for your willingness to engage. Thank you for your willingness to take responsibility. That's who we are. That's what we do at our FIU. Thank you.
President Rosenberg, thank you very much for this very motivational and inspirational charge to our competitors. We're inspired and comforted by your leadership. In today's kickoff event, we have a number of activities planned. Next, we will hear from a panel of industry experts from the Miami Heat, Assurant, Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits, and our own Dean Joanne Lee from FIU Business, who will share ideas on how to manage the complexities of a COVID-19 world. After the panel discussion, we will hear from our Atom Advisory Board Chairman, Mr. Leo Cordero, who will acknowledge all of those supporters who have helped to make this Datathon possible. Stick around, because after Mr. Cordero gives his vote of thanks, we will then formally kick off the Datathon, and Dr. Nicole Wishart, Faculty Director of the Atom Think Tank, will share with you the details of the week's activities. So if you're competing, please stay to the end of the event to receive your instructions on how to participate in the Datathon. And now we'll move on to a very exciting panel. And it is my pleasure to welcome our panelists. The theme for this evening's panel is managing the complexities of a COVID-19 world. And our first panelist is Dr. Joanne Lee, who is Dean and Professor of Finance and Writer Eminent Scholar Chair at the FIU College of Business. As Dean, she leads the college's Landon Undergraduate School and Chapman Graduate School, as well as its executive education, global learning, and small business development programs, including SBDC at FIU and the Pino Global Entrepreneurship Center. Since joining FIU Business, Dr. Lee has driven many technology innovations and creative initiatives, including the launch of BizPass, a mobile app designed to create student engagement at FIU Business. Our next panelist is Nicholas Martinez, who is the Director of Analytics, Research and Strategy for the Miami Heat and 601 Analytics. His team is responsible for providing reporting analytics, data science, strategic insights, and market research to drive customer engagement, business sales, and operations strategy. Nicholas holds a bachelor's degree in Latin American Studies and 2 master's degrees in International Affairs and Urban Planning from Florida State University, but Nicholas is a Panther at heart. He recently completed his doctorate in public affairs at FIU, where he focused on applying quantitative social science methods to complex policy questions. Our next panelist is Marcelo Rodriguez, who is Vice President of Global Business Resiliency at Assurant Incorporated. Marcelo is an international corporate safety, security, and crisis management executive with over 30 years of experience. He joined Assurant as the Vice President of Global Business Resiliency in May 2019. Marcelo has a fascinating background. Prior to Assurant, Marcelo was the Chief Security Officer for Sony Pictures Entertainment Incorporated. As a CSO at Sony, Marcelo had overall global responsibility for security and safety operations, crisis management, business continuity, production and special event security, global threat management, and enterprise security technology. Our next panelist is Kay Yoder, who is Vice President, Environmental Health, Safety, Security, and Business Continuity at Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits. Now, Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits is North America's largest wine and spirits distributor and the preeminent data insights company for alcoholic beverages. Kay has over 25 years of global experience ensuring regulatory compliance, improving safety performance, and implementing sustainability initiatives into existing business practices. In her current responsibilities, Kay oversees implementation and governance of the National Environmental Health and Safety Programs at Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits. Our moderator is Dora Cortinas, who is the Vice President of Enterprise Data Management and Commercial Solutions at Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits. A dynamic personality, Dora is responsible for leading strategic commercial programs in support of Southern Glazer's Wines and Spirits digital transformation across customer relationship management, customer service, and e-commerce. Prior to Southern Glazer's, she held several leadership positions, including Chief Information Officer at Brinker International, several leadership positions at Burger King Corporation, AutoNation, ANC Rental, which is the brand owner of National and Alamo rental car companies. And her career started as a consultant with Deloitte & Touche. She earned her MBA from the University of Miami in Florida, but Dora is a Panther at her core. She holds a bachelor's degree in Management Information Systems from FIU. And she's a member of the Atom Advisory Board at FIU Business. At this point, I will turn over to Dora, who will begin to lead our panel discussion. Dora?
Thank you for that. Thank you, Carlene. Thank you for that introduction. I'm thrilled to have all of the panelists here and the audience that we have. I'm excited to moderate such an esteemed set of executives that have joined us this evening. With all of us having been impacted in one way or another with COVID-19, as Carlene mentioned this evening, our objective is to have this panel of diverse executives from different industries share some of the shared experiences and challenges they've had, and also share insights as leaders who have dealt with the complexities of adjusting their own organizations to effectively handle and conquer COVID-19 epidemic. Before we get started, please note that you as the audience are muted. Please use the chat box to enter any questions you may have as you hear our panelists speaking. If anything occurs to you as a question, please feel free to put that in the chat box. My partners in this evening, Celine Torres and Claudia Parker, will monitor the chat box for questions, and throughout the ongoing discussion, I will check with them for any questions posed, and we'll interject those throughout the next hour. What I would love to have you all do as the audience to practice in using the chat box and kind of just get to know all of you a little bit. If you could all enter your names and the city that you're joining us from on the chat box so we can get to know all of you a bit, that would be wonderful. And I see that, I'm trying to see on the chat box here. Wow, fabulous. Wow, we've got a lot of folks from Miami, Adriana, Ashley, Maureen, Miami, Ramanetti, awesome. It's great to see you, Rama. Lots of folks from Miami. Oh, we have Bogota, Colombia. Very exciting. Hallandale, Broward. Really very exciting, right? Lots of folks from all over. Welcome to all of you. Dino, it's good to see your name. Pembroke Pines, Dallas. Jeanette, hi. I spent 7 years of my life in Dallas as well. So lots and lots of great folks here that I'm recognizing some names. So great to see some friendly names out there. So with that, I also wanted to try to get to know some of you as well in the audience. And the pandemic has turned our whole world upside down. So what I want to do is thank all of you for hanging in there. Really want to know you a bit more in terms of how you're dealing with this virtual reality world of ours. So we're going to put a couple poll questions up just to have a little fun with the audience and get to see and understand some of you out there. So you should, as attendees, be seeing a poll question pop up on the screen right now. If we can have that come up and all of you answer the questions that the question, which is, what type of Zoomer are you? It's a multiple choice question. Some of the answers you'll see there is the one walking around, the one who just woke up, the one without the camera on, that's me, I never put the camera on, the one who always talks, or the one doing funny faces. So if you guys could answer that, and then we'll show the responses to everybody here and see what some of you are doing right now, actually, depending on your answer. Do you see the responses? Because I'm not seeing the response.
We don't see
no responses yet.
No? Okay. So I think Rigo's in the background doing his magic.
Yes, so we're at a 75% response. I can go ahead and stop the response if you guys want.
No, that's perfect. If you can just keep it posted there, that's great. Let's see what we've got in terms of what, that'll give us a little insight of what folks are doing right now as we're all talking. You let us know, Rigo. Happy to see you too, Dino. It's nice to see you. All right. All right, Rigo, you want to put the responses up, see where we are? See who the winner is. All right, so you got both questions. So the majority of us like to be online without the camera on. Okay, I'm all about that. Do you multitask when attending a meeting online? Sometimes. All right, I have to tell you that probably for me, it's probably closer to 100%. Why don't we kind of ask our panelists the first question here in terms of, so what type of Zoomer are you? Kay, do you want to give us some insight there?
I'm the one without the camera.
Just like I am. Joe?
I am actually guilty, and I pick the one who always talks. The true answer is I eat all the time.
All right, yeah, that's what the bowl with the soup while you're having a meeting. I get it. I do it too. Marcelo?
Yeah, I'm definitely the one that always talks, but the one that talks with the mute button on. So I think that would be me.
Well, I've been caught talking without the mute button on, and that's embarrassing. Nick, how about you?
Yeah, I'm also one of the ones who's always talking, but I've been caught with the hot mic moments. I was in a meeting with the president the other day, and I was actually multitasking, playing the bass guitar while we were having the meeting, and I was playing over the meeting, and I didn't realize that my mic was on, so I had to apologize for that one.
All right. So how about, do you multitask when attending a meeting online? I am 100% guilty of that. How about you, Joanne? What are your thoughts?
What are you asking? Okay, actually, I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I'm multitasking all the time.
Yeah,
I sense I can do it.
That's a dead giveaway, right? It's like, oh, I didn't catch that question. How about Kay?
I think it depends. If I'm working from home, I'm generally pretty focused. But if I'm at my office where I have multiple screens, it's easy to multitask.
All right. Marcelo?
Yeah, same here. I'm multitasking, either answering email, looking over my shoulder at my kids, trying to barge into my office. And so, yeah, it's constant fun.
All right. And Nick, last but not least.
Hey, all I can think about right now is the FIU Datathon. I'm 100% dialed in.
Very good. All right, so let's get our conversation going. So I appreciate you guys having a little fun with that, just to kind of get to know our audience and all of you a little bit as well. So maybe we can start, Joanne, if you don't mind, with maybe the first question to kind of get the conversation going and help our attendees here with some of the work they'll be doing this week. What are some of the issues that your organization here at FIU, right, has encountered through the pandemic? Things that you've seen as challenges?
That's a great question, Dara. And first, I want to say I'm extremely privileged to serve alongside with my panelists. This is a powerful panel. I feel a little intimidated, but I think I'm in great company. So let's travel back in time, right? In March, mid-March, and the Board of Governors basically said, okay, all public university, transfer everything remote, let's protect our students. So think in terms of university, the two fundamental things that are important to us, right? To ensure student success, as well as taking care of the health and safety of our stakeholders. So university quickly, have to get into this and quick at work and figure out what can we do. So in FIU, we have around, in spring semester, 7,000 something sections, and 5,000 something sections are really hybrid and also face-to-face. Now the remaining, FIU has been in the forefront of transferring some of our sections into online. Now let me put it in a context. FIU business at that point in spring, we're about 40% in the undergraduate sections already online. And granted, we started online education 2 decades ago. We're one of the first adopters in terms of online education. But that being said, we're still confronted with a question. Well, how do you quickly transfer face-to-face, the hybrid, to a format that will be conducive to student learning? We make a mission and a vision. Student success, student learning must happen. But at the same time, we are asking everybody to really rethink about our teaching pedagogy. And I think most people think, well, how difficult it is, you can just go do teaching in front of a camera. And I would challenge that thought because through years, professors, staff, they're into environment that they practice, experiment, and perfect, right? They perfect the idea of doing face-to-face. If you heard of that line, teaching is a performing art. So you understand there's a huge responsibility coming in within teaching. It's not something that I just put myself in front of the camera, then teaching will happen, learning will take place. It doesn't work that way. So what we do as a business school, we think about what could be the most optimal way of learning in the world of uncertainty. We start to play around different kind of ideas. And what we plan for this coming fall semester, given the current situation, and I want to emphasize, right, the situation is fluid. We don't know what August 24th is going to be. But as of today, our plan is to have a plan, make some assumptions, and let's go on. And we decide to go on with a high flex model. High flex model is meaning that we will rotate students in and out to have opportunity to come in on campus with a face-to-face situation, but it's really accommodating with the adjusted classroom capacity in observation of the 6-foot distance. At the same time, we allow an interactive module, which is the remote portion, and some students, they may have health concern, or maybe they rotate out of a face-to-face to participate and interact with their classmate through a either a media site or Camtasia, whatever hardware software we have to allow interaction through a remote synchronized fashion with the professor and the student. So I can go into details, but the goal is the mindset has to change. Our teaching pedagogy has to change, but it doesn't happen just overnight. It will have to parallel the strategy with technology and training, right? So simultaneously, FIU business is busy at work. We are developing a lot of training workshop. We are going to acquire and procure software and hardware to make sure that faculty feel like, okay, when they go into the classroom, they will be supported. One thing I want to emphasize is we cannot guarantee it will be completely risk-free. As much as we're going to tell people, we cannot guarantee we'll not make mistakes. But our mindset will have to be very agile, very entrepreneurial. We have a good attitude coming in. We try to explain to people we're still in the world of unknown unknowns, but we are ready. When we get into fall semester and we are very much into scenario planning, we make some assumption, we have a plan, and in our mind, having no plan is not a plan. We're going to have a plan. Our attitude is healthy. So when fall semester comes, we know these are scenario A, B, C, and D. It may go to Z, right? But we will be very agile into that kind of planning mindset. So.
Thank you for that, Joanne. Let me follow up to that in terms of some of the issues encountered. Certainly when issues come up, the organizations have to become innovative to address those issues. Any innovation that you see, Joanne, as a follow-up in terms of things? You mentioned training and technology changes. Anything there in terms of innovation that's being applied?
Wonderful question, right? I will call the pandemic, it's a crisis that we cannot unlearn, right? It is in modern history. Nobody ever thought this day will come, but this day is here. So we cannot unlearn the crisis. Then what are we going to do? So we have to really think about maybe in the past when higher education thought, oh, it could not happen. Now it's here. For instance, you often have a group thinking about, okay, well, I'm sitting on a bench. I'm not so sure that I can teach this kind of material online or through a digital platform. But now we're subject to environment. Come on, get on board. We can do it. So this is really the internal threshold just arrived, right? External forces is the marketplace, the students, the parents, the legislator, everybody out there expecting, make it happen for us. So this is a circumstance presented as an opportunity for us. So now what we're going to do, our goal is try to make sure that the pedagogy, the teaching pedagogy that we are taking on now, the high flex model I'm talking about, also the technology that we are going to put in to parallel our strategy is going to stay. What does it mean? We're going to have a very focused attitude of looking in. Are we ready in terms of software? Are we ready in terms of hardware? What are the things that we can do to support the learning environment? How about changing our attitude, making sure that our teaching will be very much learner-centric? This is a term that President Rosenberg always used, right? Try to be learner-centric, because now all of a sudden you put your student behind the computer. How can we continue to motivate them? How can you make sure that learning really happen behind the computer screen? So we have to really rethink about that. And our goal is coming forward, we really have to develop our teaching modality, our pedagogy, and also making sure it's really supported by technology moving forward so that teacher can ensure teaching does happen. And on the learner side, we really focus making sure that how to make sure that they're not really distracted, creating case study that they will be focused, format that will be conducive for them to learn and be productive in a digital classroom.
We have a question, actually, it's from the audience, just as a follow-up, and then I'm going to follow up with the rest of the panelists. Joanne, is that student interaction between the teacher and the professor. Anything there in terms of thought process around addressing that as FIU shifts more to online courses?
That's a great question. So as I mentioned earlier, FIU currently still plans on doing high flex. The high flex is a model that allows interaction. I want to elaborate a little bit more, right? Due to the 6-foot distancing, you can imagine most of the classroom will lose a lot of their capacity. Let's say we give an example, 40% classroom capacity. Originally, we can have, 20 students in, but now we can only have 5 or 6, whatever that is. And then the other portion of students will enter the classroom through a remote portal. And it could be Zoom, it could be any kind of platform. The goal to preserve the high flex is to promote the synchronous and interaction between the professor and the students. So this is a good question. We're really not talking about the online, because the online teaching pedagogy, we have been in this business for over 20-something years already. We're fine with that. We're really focusing on the hybrid and also the face-to-face, now being converted into a high flex. Our goal is to try to preserve that kind of interaction through a high flex model to allow students, let's say I'm a remote student, right? I dedicated because maybe a health concern or maybe family situation, I have to enter a high flex model as a remote student. I will still be able to interact with my professor through the Zoom platform and also my classmate through the Zoom platform. And I'm not saying this is easy, because we're going to ask our professor to manage two halves of the classroom, right? One is in a face-to-face circumstance, and the other one is in a remote. How can the professor really try to interact with the two group of students? So this is something that we are working on. We're still, creating training workshop. But the goal and the vision is through this kind of high flex teaching modality, we'll be able to preserve the interaction from student to professor and also from student to student.
No, I think you're right. That social interaction will happen when they're in the classroom. So that's very thoughtful. Kay, maybe we can get your point of view in the industry that you're in the wine and spirits, kind of some of the issues that have been encountered and what innovative solutions have come out of that.
I think, I think everybody back in March was looking for all the appropriate cleaning supplies and personal protective equipment for the employees. Southern Glazers was an essential business, so we never shut down, but also there were offices that we closed, and looking at how we were going to change our business and the health and safety of our employees was the #1 priority. One of the things that I think was incredibly innovative in the market is that the distilleries, those that generally would make rum or some other things, even right there here in Florida, Florida Rum Company, they converted their distillery to make hand sanitizer. And a lot of companies did that across the nation to answer the cry because the gel hand sanitizer was so sparse. And I think that was great for every community where they were donating it or those of us that needed it. And then there was how we were going to dispense it, because quite frankly, they didn't have the alternative bottles. So they might have bottled it in, let's say, a vodka bottle or a rum bottle, right? And so then finding all of the appropriate dispensers took some challenge, going around to dollar stores and because they were not available online. You couldn't just go to Amazon, which is what everybody's answer would have been. No, you can't just order 10,000 bottles on Amazon. No, those are not available. So trying to get personal hand sanitizer in the hands of every employee who's on the front line was a challenge that was answered by those distilleries. That was great.
It's very exciting, especially very, very innovative, because there is a high level of alcohol content in those gels, so that would make sense. Yeah. So one of the areas, I'm sure, as we shift from, into more of a virtual environment and have to address some of the issues that companies like yours and the university has faced is really investments, right? And investing in other areas of the business. Nick, can you maybe talk a little bit about, what new investments have been made in by the heat because of the results of the pandemic, and in what areas?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think, fundamentally the NBA is just vastly different than some of the examples we've heard so far. Basketball games are a live in-person event, right? And so when our commissioner, Adam Silver, took the very strong leadership position to suspend the season in early March, that was kind of left a big question mark for all of the teams. And it was the right decision to make. And what the league has done since then is they created the bubble. So if you all are familiar with kind of watching your Miami Heat, they took all the teams who were kind of on the route to the playoffs and put them in sequestered campus in Walt Disney World, and they've resumed play. And it's been a great success. After the first week, all the players were tested again. They had 346 players tested with 0 positive COVID-19 results. Games have been played. Your Miami Heat won their first scrimmage on Wednesday night against the Sacramento Kings, and we have another game on Saturday we're looking forward to. I think that's been a really exciting moment for us to be able to resume play, to give fans what they really wanted to see, which is live entertainment and basketball, and for us to be able to complete that season. In terms of investments, one of the things that, the arena is going to be equipped, and we plan to come back with live basketball for the 2021 season, and we're making all the necessary changes to the arena to allow for fans to be back in the stands. But one of the things that I think is even more interesting, so our analytics unit has spun out as a startup, and we did that about a year and a half ago of 601 Analytics, and we actually sell our analytics services to other teams and other leagues and the like. And what I've been very, very interested by in this hiatus period of time is the number of kind of really warm conversations we've had with other businesses out there who've realized like they have to get their data house in order. They have to get smarter about how they're going to do their business. And if they hadn't been doing so in the past, now is the time for them to try and take into account how the kind of consumer behavior is going to change, or how their data is going to lead them back into normal kind of production and kind of selling their services and goods to their customers. And so I think that's an interesting moment in time for analytics professionals to see that opportunity. And I think those businesses that make those investments are going to be better positioned than those who are still kind of, living in maybe a pen and paper type of way of looking at business.
As a follow-up to that, since you're in the analytics space, have you seen a difference in the data sets you're looking at now than are you introducing new types of data or new data to your analytics that you didn't have in the past or you weren't looking at before the pandemic?
Yeah, we're very lucky to have a number of different data sources because our business touches, we're obviously dealing with direct consumer. We're doing a lot of business to business work. We have a full-on finance department. We run a giant facility. And so we have a lot of different data coming from a lot of different data sources that are unstructured. And we have really, really intelligent and capable people who are taking that data and bringing it over from my team to turn it into analytics. So at the moment, it's less about new data and more about looking at the data in new ways, and looking at more data and trying to take more data and kind of cross-reference one to the other to see if we can uncover new patterns and bear new fruits for the business so that we can be more strategic.
You're talking about data and the fact that it's becoming more and more important. And the pandemic, I'm sure, is going to create the need for new skills. Certainly, as the world becomes more virtual, security becomes more of a criticality. Marcelo, what do you, based on the experiences you're having, do you see any changes in roles or skills or that are because of the pandemic within your organization?
Yeah, no, really good question as well. I do, and I see more of an emphasis on resiliency and sustainability. And what I mean by that is, what are we planned and are we prepared for when the lights go off, to turn them back on really quick and to prevent them from turning off again? And if so, if they have to turn off, how long will they be off for? So it's just, resiliency 101, but really from a skill set, there's been a lot of consensus and building of relationships virtually, right? As an example, with our executive crisis management team, which consists of, a pretty good population of our C-suite and some business leaders and subject matter experts. It was, we all knew each other, but never really worked together as closely as we did. And to develop that trust virtually using Zoom or Teams or any of the other products available out there, it wasn't even identified as a skill set or a challenge, but we developed those that respect again virtually. And I think it's important to highlight the need for sort of that gravitas, empathy, and just general common sense, right? So I love the fact that I'm a part of a discussion around data and science. I think that coming from an organization prior to Assurant, which was Sony, which you mentioned, in 2014, we were the subject of a nation state attack. The first time a U.S. corporation was under a large-scale cyber attack that evolved from just a data breach to many other things. And what we realized is, we had business continuity plans and crisis management plans in place, but typically those plans are only meant to last about 30 days or so, max. Not to the extent that we've all experienced, whether in education or in corporate or even the public sector. It's been months. So I think exercising those muscles, that crisis and emergency management muscles, is key. And it's something that should be top down, right? So it's getting the senior executives and the leaders of our organizations to really understand and appreciate what are the fundamentals of business resiliency. So again, skill sets, the ability to maintain those relationships, not only internally, but I think externally too, with our peers, both in private companies and the public sector, is super important. And I would say lastly, the most other part that I think is really important too, and I think Joanne touched on it, is the ability to be, to bend and flex, right? Having a plan, but gosh, if we need to pivot, we'll pivot, right? Mm-hmm. We tried it didn't work, and we're going to do it. We're going to go down this path. So again, I'm a lot of gratitude to be included in this panel, and here to answer any questions. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think Marcella probably tapped into a little bit of what you're experiencing as well, in terms of impacts, opportunities, career changes, even relationships, perhaps, impacts. You want to maybe add a little bit more onto that?
I think, yeah, thanks, Dora. I think that Marcella talked about the Crisis Management Center and the leadership team, and I'll say that at least for us, it certainly brought us closer together and with a level of respect for what each function represents, and we had daily meetings and collaborated on what was going to happen that day, and the next day, people were held accountable. But also, this was such a dynamic situation, and still is, that it took a lot as an organization. I mean, it takes a village, as you would say, for everyone to be aligned. The other thing was we were able to act quickly because everyone was aligned, and therefore we made a decision and we were able to push it out. So this is absolutely true on the crisis management team and leadership. I also think that from the relationship standpoint, I don't know if Marcelo has felt the same way, but we're all in together. And so this is new to everyone. So you might be an expert in your field, but the best thing you can do if you don't know is to ask for help. And so I have really leveraged a lot of relationships in environmental health and safety and business continuity. And our teams have come together, and I think I've built long-lasting relationships with a lot of our customers and our suppliers, because we were available and knowledgeable when they needed help, and then we weren't perfect. So we did everything we could to keep the business running, but we also admitted when we needed help. So I think that was key.
Let me ask the audience. I think you and Marcelo both have tapped into relationships and empathy and really, just an understanding, right? In terms of what other folks might be going through. Let me ask the audience, do you feel in your interactions, whether at work or home, there's a stronger empathy and more focus on relationships? If you guys can maybe, I think we have the raise hand or the yes or just maybe respond and see what the audience is thinking about that. Because I know I certainly have experienced that as well. I guess we're not seeing any responses, so we'll go back to some of the questions here. In terms of the investments too, Kay, I know there's at Southern Glazers have been investments on thermal scanners, other things that probably weren't even part of the financial picture in the past. Anything in addition to the investments?
I think every company is having to make investments that they were not planning on, whether it's procuring, a 30-day supply for every location of sanitizer and personal protective equipment, but also temperature scanning. Getting the thermal scanners up is not an easy thing, and they're not readily available. So going to your temperature guns, and then having to stand that up with a third-party provider, which is a temp agency, which comes with its own issues. I think not everybody in our organization was set up to work from home, And so just the vast amount of technology that our IT department had to put out there, not just the product or the physical pieces to get to people's home and get them set up, but also the additional Zoom licenses and the malware and the cybersecurity and all of the things that the team did, and then making availability of, I'll say, our IT engineers, so that when someone did have a problem, it wasn't just, sometimes you actually have to take your computer in, you cannot troubleshoot it, so finding a safe way to do that as well. So I think that the company invested, we invested in COVID testing as well. Just a lot of investment, but all in a great way.
Dick, how about in terms of the heat? Any areas of investment that have been different and unique?
Well, I think one of the things that we talked about, kind of empathy and being able to communicate more. And we have the COVID pandemic going on right now, and in lockstep, we have the social injustices being exposed at the same moment in time. And I think it's going to be hard for us, looking back on 2020, to divorce those two things from one another. And one of the things that I think is important that we as the league and as Miami Heat as a team have done is to kind of re-engage all of our social initiatives and, you know, start to invest more so on that side of the house. It is incumbent on us as the league in terms of our complexion and character and our impact on communities to be at the forefront of those conversations around social justice, the social justice movement, and speaking to Black Lives Matter and the things that we can do to kind of amplify those messages with our brand. We're investing in that as well. So I think it's valuable for us to continue to have the conversation with those two things kind of hand in glove, because this is a moment for us as businesses to really think about the full kind of complement of the things that are affecting us at this point in time.
So we have a question now that we're talking about the technologies and the changes that the heat has done. Nick, what tech solutions did the heat implement, if any, in order to create this bubble at Disney for the players? Anything there?
Yeah, so the league really takes the kind of the first position when it comes to deploying the bubble. But I will say we had the welcome opportunity to send many of the people from our game operations side over to the bubble to help them set up and really bring the games to life. So if you've watched any of the scrimmages on broadcast, there are no fans, but there are now on all sides of the court. The players are encircled by screens, and those screens will play a series of different ads from corporate partners through to shots of the fans, our actual fans who are participating through teams who are kind of there cheering on their respective teams. So I think that's a really exciting aspect of what's going on in this moment is the league has turned to innovation to think of a new way to deliver the game to fans while we're thinking about getting back to normal fans and stands type of scenario. And how do we in the future incorporate that heightened sense of technology and new vistas from the court with the traditional in-game experience?
Perfect. Joanne, just kind of taking that question, there's one here from our audience member around technology, and how is that FIU addressing the extraordinary data security issues that come from having so many students connecting from home? Any insights there from the university?
First, I cannot represent our CEO, Chief Technology Officer, right? I have to think about what is his actual title. And I know that all the Zoom account through FIU's enterprise account, that's a layer of security. And this is something that I have to make a disclaimer. I'm a finance professor, right? So, but I do believe that university has a very good game plan going forward. And I know that there's a question from the audience was asking about how can we ensure that the health data are not being shared or so. I want to make sure that we're absolutely clear. FIU is a public university. We have to be in compliance within the state, local, state, and also federal government. and we're also in compliance with all the HIPAA. And we are in the process of developing a P3 app. And the requirement is, as stated very clearly from the Board of Governors, while every one of us entering FIU as a public university, we take personal responsibility, but more importantly, we'll be educated on the consequences of non-compliance. So all visitor, staff, faculty, student entering, before they enter FIU campus starting fall, they are required to fill out a P3 app survey. And depending on the answer you give, and the P3 app will provide answer for you whether you can come or whether you should stay home, whether you will be quarantined or so. We're currently in the beta version of the P3 app. So all the data will be used purely as a contact tracing, helping university identify hotspot if there is anything to that regard. So I cannot answer to the extent about the data security, but I can tell you that FIU as a public university, we are very much committed to ensure the privacy of the data.
And you know, this app actually falls within the innovation and the investment area as well, right? Because that's something new for the university also.
Absolutely, and as you can imagine, universities spend a lot of investment to make sure that we're ready for the technology needs. Are we quite there yet? I will say no university can tell you that, right? We'll continue to learn, and even this Datathon is to really help us using our people, our expert like this panel to really guide us through. But we do have a game plan, and I do believe that under President Rosenberg and the leadership team, we have been actively planning long before March 11, when whole university had to go on remote operation. So things are already planned, and 3 years with FIU, I feel very assured most of the time that we really have a good game plan going on, and we'll have a good attitude. If we don't know what to do, we were going to learn, we're going to ask, like what case that we're going to ask, and we are going to connect with other leaders in other university, in the industry, to try to identify a most optimal solution for our stakeholders.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, a follow-up on the thermal scanners, and it's interesting because this is a datathon, and that is a point of data creation, really, something new. And can you talk a little bit about how that process works? You know, or do the employees know they're being scanned? You know, how does that?
Well, of course, there's signage coming into the building because it won't scan if you have your mask on. So you have to remove your mask. You walk past it, it picks up your temperature, and then you're to put your mask back on. Depending on the location, it's set up in different areas. If we have a security guard in that area, then there is not a huge alarm, so somebody's not embarrassed, but they will call out someone to come over if they're not, if they're at an elevated temperature. In some other locations, there is an alert that goes to a text message and an email to a manager, and then they're not allowed to let that person onto the floor. So depending on the location, we're in the process of setting it up. We've stood up 5 locations right now, but we are still working on the alert process to where we're sensitive to it not being an embarrassment, or with, you know, HIPAA right now has some relaxed regulations around COVID-19 is allowing more of these things. And so when we benchmark with companies that were doing it, they didn't have a problem with the alarm. But in our business, our legal would like us to not have an alarm and not have an embarrassment for the employees.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Let me follow up in terms of changes that companies are going through. Certainly, and one of the audience members has called this out, is companies have had to become more agile and really react very, very quickly to how to keep employees, customer suppliers safer. Marcelo, if I could ask you, how do you see the culture of your organization at Assurant changing, if at all, because of the result of the pandemic, or how has it changed already?
No, it's certainly changed. Earlier on, the company made a decision that the safety of employees and the continuity of our business operations were paramount. So there's a lot of, we talk about investment and interest in safety protocols, specifically around our essential employees that had to come into our manufacturing centers or our call centers. what we then saw was as 90% of the workforce worked remotely, again, we saw investments in technology and licensing, et cetera, everything else that the other panelists have mentioned. But we saw a demand and a genuine need for communications top down, more frequent communications, and not just in email. So we from our CEO down to our business leaders, frequent town halls, all hands events. Normally we would run out of time because there was a lot of good questions and not enough time to answer those questions. So we began recording the Q&A questions with the subject matter experts and the business leaders to make sure that as best as we could, we can answer all employees' questions and their concerns. What we did do though, which I think is important from a cultural standpoint, is not only invest in physical safety, PPE, et cetera, changing the workplace, even to the HVAC systems, adding UV technology to help filter the air in the workspaces, all of that. But most importantly, I think, in what we're focused on today is the emotional and mental well-being of our employees, because everyone is dealing with work from home, right? And we all have our challenges working from home. Not everyone is set up. We have senior executives that are working from their kitchen table to garages to different places. So I think it was an important pivot and identification of something very important to all of us as employees of Assurant, is to let's talk about what we're dealing with our emotions, right? As Nicholas mentioned, it's just not about the pandemic. It's about the social injustice and what's next around the corner, right? We're in hurricane season. For those of us in the Southeast, there's just so many things we're dealing with in 2020 that it's nice to have a sounding board, virtually, of course, through mental health professionals, helping us, just on our day-to-day struggles that we have with all the challenges with everything that's been handed to us this year.
And it's interesting that you mentioned there's also a cultural shift in that empathy is, as leaders, we actually have to be much more purposeful in terms of engaging with our team members. It's not like you run into them in the hallways anymore and can just talk to them, right? So really, we're talking about the town halls, really, being purposeful about making a point of having a touch point with the team, because if not, you just never see them anymore.
Can I reflect on that as well? Because
Yes.
I think that's a really important aspect. One of the things that we really, as a kind of the business strategy team, that we really we lean on is kind of the startup culture. When we were working regularly face to face, we're all kind of in close quarters, and that's where a lot of our ideas were.
Mm-hmm.
We'd go to the center island and have snacks together in the middle of the day and talk through some project we're working on. And the distance has put a little bit of a strain on
Mm-hmm.
that kind of casual conversation that leads to innovative ideas. And so what I've been trying to do, and all the other leaders kind of in my unit, is to really try and find ways to recreate those moments. And so oftentimes we're having structured meetings on a regular basis, but they're more so centered around just open conversation and less about an agendaed conversation. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, this part of the cross-section of communication and empathy is giving people the agency to kind of just speak freely about whatever it is that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of come to their mind, and you will ease into business questions and in and out of them and provide solutions. And the Teams chats has been another great way for us to just continue conversations offline when we're not, face to face with the camera. So I think those moments are things that we have to, in a remote world, we have to figure out ways to rekindle. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great challenge, but also can be, as it is face to face, an opportunity.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely, it is. you know, Joanne alluded to this as well in terms of keeping that interaction with students. Sounds like that rotation of days is going to really be effective because, you know, as humans, we do need that engagement and interaction. One of the questions that was posed by the audience, and which actually taps into one of the focus areas of the Datathon is the space, in the office space. You know, maybe Marcelo, you can talk a little bit about, you know, certainly here at Southern Glaciers, we've addressed the occupancy issue by rotating the days for now that folks will be in the office, depending on the building. Is Assurant looking at changing the furniture layout, how the space is designed, anything for long term? Any input there?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think if we look back, some of the guidance that we got from CDC, the WHO, and other experts, some of what we talked about 6 months ago is, well, wait a minute, you know, okay, now everyone should be wearing a mask versus just people who are ill. So what does that mean? Social distancing is another aspect to how we're looking at our space planning. Right now, I think it's important to just to highlight that I hear return to work, you know, or we never stopped working at Assurant, right? I think we just pivoted into a different type of work environment, working from home, working remotely. As we think about return to office, we're thinking about safety first, second, and third. But I can assure you that at Assurant, we're not going to be in a rush to populate an office unless we feel that the risk is an acceptable one. Obviously, there's no situation where there's no risk, right? There's always going to be some level of risk, and what's the tolerance of that risk? I think it's one of those things at Assurant where we look at our office spaces, and you know, we were probably before the pandemic, we were looking at utilizing more space. We were looking at more of the team building, the huddle rooms, the conference rooms. All that is off the table now. We're looking at, okay, how do we limit conference room space? What do we do with our huddle space? What do we do with our on-site cafeteria, our gyms, et cetera? So there's a lot of things that are in play. But first and foremost, we're not gonna be in a rush, right? We're gonna wait until, you know, the leaders at Assurant feel that it's a right time to do a gradual return to office, and we'll do very similar to what the university is doing, right? We'll look at different, you know, separating times of entrance or limiting the amount of employees that can come into an office building at one time. So this is great because I love to hear from not only the panelists, but moving on from folks in the audience, you know, what they come up with as some recommendations.
So this might be a good time maybe to engage the audience in that. Celine, what do you recommend? Should we?
Well, team, I have a few questions. We have a split group. Some people really love the interacting virtually, and then others are missing the brainstorming sessions. They really miss the face-to-face. So if anyone can elaborate on that, that'd be great.
Great, thank you.
I can jump in if you allow me to, Dora.
Yes,
so
please.
I heard what Marcelo and Kay and Nicholas were talking about, right? Creating the connectivity, try to increase the frequency through town hall, webinar, whatever that is. I think it's very important. And one of the things that people missing out is really truly the interaction. And we already know through the pandemic, it seems like there's nothing really can replace it. But like what Marcelo was talking about, this is still a very fluid situation. Nobody can guarantee there's no risk. So let's identify maybe the next best alternative, right? So Celine is here and asking that question, but I'll tell you, probably 2 weeks ago, I tasked Celine, our event master, to create really, I'm gonna just say it, there's no better way to say it, really create a happy hours across all our staff and faculty. And I make it a very deliberate intention saying that, hey, you participate this 1 hour on Friday, that will count it as your work hour. Don't feel bad about like having this out because the mental wellness is very important, right? Having the ability to connect in a very relaxing environment is like what we say in strategy, right? Let's go slow, go fast, right? And I think that's something that I think to all the panelists, you're talking about how to have that connectivity with your team is important. And also, I think this is the time to think about the word delegation. And when you're remote, sometimes we can have a little, you know, distrust. Are you really working or so? But this is the time to really emphasize the word of delegation and allowing our team member to believe that you can take responsibility. Even though you're behind the computer, we know you're doing it. And instill that kind of trust, continue to build a trusted relationship so that you preserve the productivity. And I think this is a fantastic question from the audience.
Nick, any thoughts there in terms of working differently now with being virtual?
Yeah, I think this last point Dean Lee made is pretty apropos. It's delegation and trust, and then there's this, like, what I've had to internalize is like a soft approach to, you know, trying to motivate someone to do something, but also not add extra stress to them, because I have to keep in the back of my head the reality that we're all living through right now. You know, I had my own scare in May, when I thought I had possibly gotten the disease, and there was a moment where I was like trying to continue to work because work was the thing that took my mind off of waiting on my test results. Thankfully, it came back negative. But it's something that I've tried to keep at front of mind when I'm having those kind of crucial conversations with my staff, is to say, like, look, I need to be able to trust you even more than I have in the past, because we're so far apart, and everyone on my team and everyone who I work with has stepped up to the plate. But there's also this countervailing pressure where it's like, but I don't want to be too harmful, because it will have a longer run negative repercussion as well. So I think that's a bigger part of, like, that's part of the management book they don't teach you. Or maybe
That's
they do,
true.
Dr. Dean Lee. Can you write a book about it?
Well, I'm glad that your test came back positive, Nick. And you're touching on something here in terms of management, and it will be interesting to see the leadership competencies and management books, what skills are going to be needed and what's going to be different as we develop our leaders for the future, right? Based on how much more virtual we are today versus how we were in the past. One of the questions, and again related to data, is how are businesses measuring success, if at all, differently? You know, people working remotely, ensuring that the outputs and the outcomes are the same. Has anybody in the panel seen their company shift to different measurements of work productivity, or has that not been impacted?
Yeah, I'll take that. Go ahead.
No.
No, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joanne. No, really, from an assurance standpoint, there was always concern about performance, right? And would those performance levels, would they dip? And if so, how, and how we can correct them. But back to what the panelists were saying about trust and empathy, I think we all took into account that everyone has a certain challenge working from home. And therefore, there was certain levels of acceptance of performance dips, and sometimes not just with issues around child or dependent care, but technology, right? Not everyone has the highest speed internet, and things had to change. And at Assurant, we helped shepherd those changes by providing our employees who, everything from a 50-foot long Ethernet cable to connect to their modem if their Wi-Fi wasn't good. So it just kind of thinking outside the box a little bit, going back a few years, but at the end of the day, the company really looked at not only employee performance and productivity, but we looked at our service level agreements with our clients and customers. And based on those relationships, we had those discussions with our clients and customers who were also facing their own version of challenges with the pandemic. So again, good conversations around here's what the best that we can do under the given circumstances. And you know, luckily as an organization, we you know, we exceeded those expectations. And of course, there's always, you know, those exceptions, but and if there were one-off issues and challenges that the organization had to deal with, our HR business partners, our technology leaders really stepped in and really helped everybody be successful.
Great. Team Lee, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I actually agree with Michelle about this, right? But I want to distinguish the two aspects when you look at your colleagues and your employees' performance, right? The fear of the boss versus the fear of failure, right? And I think early on, Nicholas was talking about we should assure people it's okay, you make little mistakes. That's what creativity and innovation is about. But make no mistake about the success of the team is important, right? You should not be afraid of speaking up. You should not be afraid of your supervisor because that is innovation. But let's hold ourselves accountable because the failure for the organization, it means the failure for all of us. So instill the attitude saying that we're here together, we're going to innovate, we're going to create, but we should be really held accountable for the outcome of the project together. So I think if we go in and talk with our team and making sure they understand the difference between these two, it's actually a very good way to foster a positive attitude to hold ourselves accountable. We should be afraid of failure. It's okay, granted it will, but we should not be afraid of speaking up and telling our boss, that is not gonna work, we're gonna hit ourselves on the wall. So I think that's a very important distinction when we talk with our team to make sure that they understand.
No, I think it's an excellent point. And hopefully that courage does not go away and is still strong with everyone as they continue to work remotely. You know, one of the panelists, one of our audience members actually brought up a point about even as a worker, it's difficult to separate when you're home and, you know, when you worked in the office, you know, I'm going to get up from my desk, drive home, and my workday ended. Now it seems to be very seamless, right? It's hard to know when the day starts and ends between work and personal life. And I find myself actually working more hours now that I'm working remotely. You know, Nick, what are your thoughts around that in terms of that separation?
What separation? It's all a blur, like you said. And for those of us who are blessed to have children as well, we've also become part-time teachers and summer camp counselors. You know, I'm half the day the IT professional for my two boys when they can't get on their own Zoom calls, and it's odd to see them like little professionals getting on Zoom calls, having chats in elementary school. But look, I 100% agree. I think all the little buffers you would have had in between meetings, like, oh, I got to run from one side of the arena to the other side, and so I need 15 minutes 30 minutes in between these meetings, all that's gone. So it's just Teams meeting back to back to back to back to back, where, you know, I'm not an avatar here. I still have to, you know, like Dean Lee said, I got to eat still, right? And I have to do other things that are kind of part parcel of my day. And so I think what I found for myself and a lot of my team members is like, well, if I take 15 minutes over here to attend to something in my personal life, well, I have to tack that back on to the end of my work day. And therefore my work day extends through into the night. And so our regular 9-to-5 schedule has definitely shifted and become fluid because of the fact that we have to spend so much of our attention on many different things in the household that we otherwise wouldn't have focused on when we were just exclusively in the work.
Right, no, that's a good point. And another impact is, you know, we used to separate, you know, when you were at work, you show up with your work self versus when you're at home, you were a mother, a sister, whatever, a brother, what that might be. And now the people it's almost like people are becoming more personal automatically because, you know, you're in a call and your dog might be barking in the back, or your child is asking you a question in the middle of a conference call or a Zoom meeting. And so that also, I think it's a plus because I think it personalizes the folks we're working with. What are your thoughts, Kay, on that? Any, I'm sure that's happened to you.
Actually, for the most part, I'm on day 141 going into the crisis management center. So I'm somewhat jealous of the people that have been working from home because so many people have gotten into a routine. There are a lot of people that talk about their challenges with the kids, especially during school, and helping them with technology and such. And at the same time, I think a positive to this pandemic is it's probably bringing families closer together. I think that the family unit is really a growth area. And then I also think that at least what I hear from my own employees who are working from home is they're embracing it because they don't have that commute, and there's maybe a little bit more money in their pocket because they're not paying for gas, and they are not rushing to get home, and they're not late for a kid's event or whatever it is. So they're not paying for after school care. Now, of course, some of them would like to have that at this point in time, but so I think that's I think we're just in a different time. I am so thankful that I do not have children at home and trying to do my job and multitask with them. I'm just going to say that, but I'm somewhat jealous of the people who've gotten into a little bit more of a routine because the people who can shut it off, you need your personal time. Mm-hmm. You need to be able to take that walk away. If that means you take your break at lunch and you actually set your timer and you go out for a walk or you get that breather, because otherwise, at least I know me personally, if I am working from home, it's very difficult to turn it off.
Yeah, I think we're all faced with those challenges. We are almost out of time. And so what I thought we'd do is to close this off is what I'm going to call a lightning round. And I'm going to ask each of our panelists one question. And I'm going to ask, please, that you answer it with no more than 2 sentences. And because it's a lightning rod and the answers need to come quickly to you. So you ready? Top 4? All right, let's go. So the question is, and I'm going to start with Nick. When you are 80 years old, what will you tell your grandchildren about life and about business that would be the most important thing for them to know from your experience during this pandemic? Nick?
Be ready for anything. Stay educated and stay ahead of the game. I've been lucky to have learned from FIU and other schools in the state of Florida and be prepared to use my background in education to be successful during this pandemic.
Great. Dean Lee?
I was about to tell Nick you exceeded the 3 sentences requirement.
For measuring.
I don't get the points. I don't get the points. What?
My answer will be take a deep breath. All things are complicated before they become simple.
Perfect. And that was 2 sentences, Nick. Okay.
She wins.
Marcelo?
Yeah, so I would say, rely on data and science. And my second sentence for Dean Lee would be to, just be empathetic.
Very good. Okay, last one. We'll end with you, and then I'll turn it over to Carlene.
I would tell them that tomorrow is not a promise. Live every day to the best of your ability. Tell the people you love that you love them, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
That's a great way to end this. Thank you, Kay. Thank you very much. And I want to thank all of you, Kay, Joanne, Marcelo, and Nick. I really enjoyed interacting with you on this, and thank you very much. Carlene? Yes.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Dora, and the rest of our distinguished panel. And I'm sure that our competitors have gotten a lot of nuggets and little sparks of ideas that they can work on, like the AI behind thermal scanning, how to manage bubbles that you create, quarantined communities, researching, learning, perhaps living together, how to manage our culture, how to balance work and life. And so I'm looking forward to see what ideas will emerge from our Panthers. At this point, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Leo Cordero, CEO of Resource and Chair of the Atom Advisory Board. Leo.
Thank you, Carlene, and thank you, everybody. It's been such a great discussion. As Carlene just said, my name is Leo Cordero. I'm president and CEO of YSource, an executive think tank, and this year's Atom Think Tank Board of Advisors chair. On behalf of everyone at Atom Think Tank and everyone from the committee members, as well as FIU's incredible faculty, staff, and all sponsors, mentors, the panelists, and then members of the community in making this valuable event a reality. I want to thank everyone and on behalf of all of us. So let's get started. This is the beginning. Let's find great solutions to address the challenges we face as we begin to get our wonderful FIU repopulated. And we're all counting on you and your innovations. So I'm going to turn it back to you, Carlene, and so we can begin the other phase.
Thank you, Leo, and thank you for your leadership of the Atom Advisory Board. And I also wanted to add to that vote of thanks. There are a few special people without whom this event would not be possible. There are 3 faculty members who put their heart and soul into this. Dr. Nicole Wishart, Dr. Lina Buayad, and Dr. Arijit Singh Gupta, and you'll be hearing from them throughout the week as they provide their mentorship throughout the Datathon. And of course, our events and technology team, Celine Torres, Carlos Perea and his team, the Department of IT led by Robert Griot, and of course, the distinguished panel. Thank you for working so hard with us this week to get this panel together and ensuring that it is relevant and interesting for our audience today. And of course, this cohort of the Atom Advisory Board has been very, very involved, engaged, and has really driven this Datathon. So thanks to the Atom Advisory Board. And of course, a word of thanks to our sponsors. Cannot forget the sponsors, Assurant, Resource, and Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits. At this point, we're going to kick off the Datathon officially. So I'm going to hand over the events proceedings to Dr. Nicole Wishart, who will take the competitors through the logistics of the Datathon. So competitors, please stick around. And to the rest of our audience, thank you for being so engaged. Thank you for your thoughtful questions, probing questions to the panelists, and for staying throughout the panel and engaging with us. Okay, Nicole, over to you.
Thank you all. All right, so this segment is primarily for the students. Fix my mic. This segment is primarily to make sure that the student teams will be oriented and understand how they're going to work together and access their material. I would like to share my screen if they will give me permission to do that, or.
Go ahead, you have permission.
Okay, so are you seeing my screen right now?
No, you have to go ahead and hit, you have to hit screen share.
Sorry, I have to tell it to share. Here we go. Thank you. All right, so by now, all of the participants would have encountered our website, because this is more than likely where they registered from. And the website will remain as an essential source of information. But in order to facilitate the interaction, the mentoring, and the submission, we have created a Canvas course shell. And a question came in today, is a student concerned about what they have to pay to be in the Canvas course? Absolutely not. This is just to support the functioning of the competition, so there's no tuition or charge to be put into this course, so do not worry about that. You should have, all students who registered and provided their email address should have received an email notification about how to access this course. And within here, you're going to find modules. The agenda is here to keep you reminded about how things are going to proceed. I'll come back to that in a moment. There's a reminder of what the tracks and the challenge prompts are. That's to keep you on focus. Okay. Anytime you start to go off track, you come back and read that. Some initial data sets, we expect to be adding more to this because as the mentors the mentors are also going to be part of this course. So now that they have access, they may be suggesting more data and more resources for you guys. And as those suggestions come in, everything will be made available. Reminder of the judging criteria that will be used. And also, this is where you're going to submit, because we would like all the submissions to be in the central location to make it easy for the pre-judges and the judges to manage. Let me go back to the agenda for a moment. So we just had our panelists and we are in the kickoff section, but starting tomorrow morning, there will be mentoring sessions. They all have the same Zoom link to keep it simple, okay? So the time slots that we have preset are available here, and all of them will be accessible through this single Zoom session link. There will be different mentors available. So we, not all of the mentors will be available in a single session, but the mentors are coordinating to decide who will be available. So there will always be at least one mentor, probably anywhere from 2 to 4 mentors available in a given Zoom session. All teams are welcome to participate in the session. As we work together in a mentoring session, we may divide up into breakout rooms. So if a particular team needs some assistance and they would like that to be personal and private to them, we can put you into a breakout room with a mentor or a couple of mentors to work with you. We do like to emphasize, though, that the mentors are there for guidance and support and advice. They're not there to do all of the work for you. So just to set the expectations that we expect that the teams are going to be doing the work and they are reaching out to mentors for guidance and advice, okay? But the work, the creativity, the innovation, that's coming from you students. We are confident in your ability and we're really looking forward to it. There could be more mentoring sessions added depending on interest and availability, but these are the ones that we're going to offer as a minimum. Now in this schedule screen, the image that I've captured here, it overlays the entire week so that you can visually get a quick look at how things are going to play out. So this area here in red, let me zoom in. Oops, too much. That's their submission deadline. So that's happening on Saturday, August 1st at 2 p.m. And you can click the link here. There's an assignment in Canvas. You can get it from the assignment link, or you can click this link to get to that assignment to make your submission. Obviously, there would be any late submissions because we're very tight on time, all right? So there will not be the capability to submit after 2 p.m. That's a very hard deadline, very strict cutoff point, and your submission has to be complete. 1 submission per team, okay? And in reference to that, each team is allowed up to 4 members, no more than 4 members. Now, some of you have already indicated the team that you would like to work with. Some of you signed up as individuals and we need to put you into teams. I would like if you could join in mentoring sessions tomorrow if you're an individual looking for a team, because I don't want to just randomly put people. So it would be nice if you're looking for a team, maybe we can just get a sense of, what track you're interested in, what your background is, and that way we can be putting people who want to work on the same track and or have common interests. Now, the reason that's not being done ahead of time, I mean, I could just say, oh, I'll just go ahead and do it, but very few of you indicated the track that you were interested in. So I don't know for sure for all of you what the tracks are that you're interested in. I get that some of you didn't fill that in because you weren't sure yet. So that's okay. You know, you can take tonight and possibly tomorrow to orient yourself, to look at the challenges, to get into chats or discussions with others, because the point of this, having this Canvas course, is you can communicate with other people in here through the inbox. You can send messages, and or there are discussion forums. The main discussion forum that you would get from this link is the one that's available to everybody in the course. So anything you post there is public to everyone in the course. But once you get put into a team, sorry, I'm trying to move this. Oh, you would see it from the home page. Once you get put into a team, you will see here course group, and whichever team you've been put into, that will appear. If you click on that link, you would get into an area where the discussion forum and the exchange of files is private to your team. Do you have to use the Canvas course for your interaction? No, you do not. I mean, this is where we will use as a central coordination point, and this is where we'll have the links to the mentoring sessions, and the submission must happen here. But in the event that you have other teamwork tools that you prefer to use, that's not an issue. You can use any technology you want. We're not limiting you to technology either in developing your solution or in your team interactions. So for example, if you prefer to use Slack, for example, if that's an environment that you and your group members are familiar with, and that's where you're comfortable, absolutely, you may work there. It's just that when you want to interact with the mentors from our links, you would need to come back here. And for the final submission, you would need to come back here. And for those of you who do not have a preferred other team support environment, then you can use the Canvas discussion forums, either public to everyone or go into your specific team once you've been assigned. I will pause for a moment to come back out of this from, well, actually, let me see if I can see it. I want to see if there are any questions coming up. But maybe Claudia, maybe you can help me by letting me know if there are any questions that are coming up that I need to address.
Yes, students want to know about prizes.
Sorry, say that again? Wait, let me.
What are the prizes, and what format guidelines would you like to follow for the submissions?
So prizes, that information is here on the website. First place team, $1,000 in scholarship for each team member. And second place, $500 scholarship for each team member. And all top teams, which, you know, obviously the first two, how many others beyond that, you can be sure that third and fourth place will also have interesting, fascinating solutions as well that we may want to highlight. So at a minimum, the first two teams, but possibly also other teams, will get recognition in our Biz News article. And we're hoping that the experience of developing your product, your prototype, your proof of concept, that you may make connections with mentors, with judges, with other people that come in to view the judging presentations. And maybe you can get, you know, move further with that, develop it into something that you can implement, you know, for social benefit and or financial benefit. Okay. Now, in regards to the judging, what will happen is we have a two-phase approach to judging. I'll go back to the Canvas course for that, although the agenda is also on the website. So when you submit at 2 p.m., we will have a group of judges that will go through all of the submissions, and it's going to be very tight. They're going to be doing this within a very narrow 4-hour window, and they will narrow it down to 6 finalists, and you will be notified that evening the 6 finalists. Teams will be, when I say 6 finalists, I mean 6 teams that will go into the finals, and you will be notified so that you will be aware that you are part of the finalists event the next day, so Sunday, August 2nd, during which you will present and be judged in the final set of judging to determine the first and second place teams. What you will be submitting, let's go to that. Your submission is going to consist of 2 components. Whatever you have created as part of this datathon. Now, the challenge, the tracks and the challenge prompts are diverse. So there are many possible ways that you could go about addressing the issues and coming up with solutions. You might develop an app. Well, not maybe a full-blown app, but a proof of concept app. You might come up with the architectural design. You might come up with a simulation. Whatever is the approach, methodology, solution that you come up with, you need to make that available to the judges. So you're going to provide links. Those must be posted somewhere. You can submit files here as well, but we really want the files you submit here would be sort of backup, because what we want is the judges to be able to click on a link, right? Click on a link and have access to all parts of your proposed solution. Along with that, you need to create a video presentation where you're explaining what you did, why you did it. This is your sales pitch. This is where you're going to convince the judges that you did some awesome work here, okay? And you've got 10 minutes to do that. So no more than 10 minutes. Now, these video presentations, for the 6 teams that make it into the finals, they can reuse these video presentations. You don't have to make a different presentation for the pre-judging versus the final. Whatever you submit for the pre-judging, if you're chosen for the final, that will be your 10-minute presentation. But what's different is in the pre-judging, there's no interaction with the teams. The judges just make their selection. They score based on the criteria. Don't forget the criteria. It's listed here, but it's also on the website, okay? So you want to keep these criteria in mind. So the judges will be using those criteria and assigning a score to every team based on their solution as well as their video presentation. During the pre-judging, they will not be interacting with you. But for the 6 teams that make it to the finals, after they play your 10-minute presentation, there will be a 5-minute Q&A where they will interact with you. Okay, and then after all 6 teams have done their 10-minute presentations with 5-minute Q&A, so 15 minutes per team, then the judges will vote and narrow it down to the first, second place winners. Okay, I'll pause. Could you guys let me know what questions are coming up?
Yes, we have a question here from someone who wants to know how long it should be.
How long what should be the video?
Yes.
The video is maximum 10 minutes.
So it could be 5 minutes, 7
yes,
minutes?
Yes, if it could be less than 10, yes.
Perfect.
The judges would probably be relieved if it's not too long. But the point is, you're maxed out at 10. Within there, you decide, but it's very important for you to tell a good story and to be convincing in that video presentation. Because you may come up with a great, innovative, genius solution, but if you cannot convey that convincingly, then you may be overlooked. So plan to tell a good, convincing story when you make your video presentations. Any other questions? Is that it, Claudia?
Yes, I don't see any more questions right now. But if anyone has additional questions, feel free to continue to type them in the chat. So Nicole, we have a question here. Someone is asking if they don't have a team, would they be assigned to a team or would they have to join a group through Canvas?
I can assign them to a team, but for me to assign to a team, I need to know what track they're interested in. So if that information was not provided when they registered, then they need to let me know. Okay, because I need to put people in a team who want to work on the same task, else they'll be pulling against each other.
Perfect. So I'm going to type my email address in the chat. For anyone who has already registered but has not indicated their track, you can go ahead and just send that to me by email.
And if there's anyone that wants to work alone individually, then they should let me know that too, so that I don't inadvertently. But I guess if I do put someone in a team and they don't want to be in a team, they can just let me know and I can pull them out. So I think the main thing now, well, of course, we do need to make sure that everybody that wants to get in case they registered late or something like that, please contact Claudia. Let us know if you're trying to get into this course, and or if you want to be added to a team, make sure you give us at least the track that you want to work on so that you can be put with people who are working on a similar task. But other than that, for the ones that are sort of past all of that and they're in the course and they're ready to start working, I would like to encourage you. I mean, this is a datathon, so it's a little bit more extended than a hackathon. You've got more than 24 hours or 48 hours, but you've only got a week, and it's going to disappear pretty quickly. It's not like you've got weeks or months to work on this. So it is very intense and fast paced. And I would like to encourage you to get off to a fast start. So please look through the challenge prompts, commit yourself. Now, some of these may have some overlap, and that's fine. If you're being able to look at these challenge prompts and recognize that there's some overlap, that's fine. You can choose more than one track as long as you're seeing an interaction overlap. You know, it's not like I would not advise to work on two disparate things, because I don't think there'd be enough time for that. But if you can see some way to have them work together, then that's fine. You could let me know that you're interested in more than one. But the point is, I think you need to make a commitment, right? And I think you need to commit, pick, and start working towards coming up with an innovative solution for your choice.
Nicole, this is Leo.
Yes?
I just wanted to also say that for everyone to definitely take advantage of working with the mentors. They're all subject matter experts from the community. We'll try to put up their bios as soon as we can for tomorrow. And they're people that want to help. They have each expertise in certain areas. And so if I was a participant, feel free to definitely look at who's out there, ask questions. These are people that are very involved in working with students at FIU.
That's a great point. And on the website, we do have a list of mentors, but that's a good point, Leo. I will bring this list over into the course as well. And there are actually some other people that have joined. So there are a few more than are listed on the website. So I'll put the complete list over in the tracks in a module called mentors. So you will be seeing who the people are. And you could reach out to them. So you don't have to rely, I mean, I hope the mentors don't get upset about me saying this,
no,
but
this is
you
why
don't
they're on.
have to rely on just the Zoom sessions. You could reach out through, discussion forum post, or maybe even better through an inbox message to a selected mentor or mentors.
The only thing that needs to be enhanced on that list is just to add a little bit of a biography, even if it's a link to some type of biography page.
Okay, yeah. Would anybody else, would any of the panelists or any participant?
We have another question, Nicole.
Yes.
Someone is asking if there is a rubric that specifies the expectations of the presentation.
Well, I guess we could do something a little bit more detailed, but the judging criteria do talk to that. Yeah, I would consider this as a rubric. All right. I mean, if they would like more details, they could absolutely like ask more specific questions, but the judging criteria is divided into 2 categories. So there are 5 criteria for the analysis, and there are 5 criteria for the presentation. And just so you understand, that each one of these is equally weighted. So if you were doing it out of 10 points total, each one would be 1 point. 1 point per criteria. We're actually going to do it out of 100. It's proportionally, that's the same thing. It's 10 points per criterion. Is that it? I don't want to keep people longer than necessary. So if there are no more questions, maybe we can wrap it up now. We will be available via email, Canvas message, discussion forum, and Zoom links for mentoring sessions starting at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you all.